snow melts on my nose, and it smells like Christmas. It feels like Christmas. Lace my boots, and off I go, and it feels like Christmas. It sounds like Christmas. Magical bells will ring all night through the roaring pines. On this sled I'll glide as the owls look down and the moon comes out. On the sled I'll ride, on the sled I'll fly tonight, tonight. Won't you please come out with me? While we're in our sleep, to sleigh bells in our dreams. Oh, the perfect sight. The world is ours tonight, tonight, tonight. Magical bells will ring all night through the roaring pines on a sled.
Hello, my dears. We are about to tell you a story of long ago, a story that our grandmothers told us.
It is a little scary and possibly a little horrifying, but we think that you'll enjoy it. So please, sit back and watch as our story unfolds.
Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, and the undertaker. Scrooge signed it. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail.
Mind, I don't mean to say, of my own knowledge, what is particularly dead about a doornail, but the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile. You will, therefore, permit me to repeat, empathetically, that Marley was as dead as a doornail.
Did Scrooge know he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole friend and sole mourner. And even Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up by the sad event and kept the office open.
The mention of Marley's funeral brings me back to the point that I started from. There is no doubt that Marley was dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come from the story we are going to relate.
Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood, above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. Scrooge answered to both names. It was all the same to him.
Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge, a squeezing, clutching, grasping, covetous old singer. The cold within him froze his features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrilly in his grating voice.
External heat and cold had little influence on Scrooge. No warmth could warm, no wintry weather chill him. No wind that blew was bitterer than him. No falling snow was it more intent upon its purpose.
Nobody ever stopped him in the street to say, with gladsome looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? Why won't you come and visit me?" No beggars implored him to bestow a trifle. No children asked him what it was o'clock. No man or woman ever in all of his life inquired of such and such a place of Scrooge.
But what did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, to edge his way along the crowded paths of life, learning all human sympathy to keep his distance.
Once upon a time, on all the good days of the year, on Christmas Eve, Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, foggy withal. The clocks had only gone 3, but it had not been let out all day. It was just dark, and candles were flaring in the windows of all the neighboring offices.
Let's take a look in the door of Scrooge's counting house, where Scrooge kept an eye on his clerk Bob Cratchit, who in a dismal little cell beyond was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like a candle flame, and poor Bob was not allowed to add any coal. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door.
Bah humbug! Who's knocking at my door?
Merry Christmas, Uncle. It is I, your nephew Fred. Oh, God save you, it's freezing in here. How do you do, Bob? A Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Fred. How's the wife?
Very well, thank you. And your lovely missus?
Quite well, thank you for asking.
Bah humbug! Humbug, humbug! While you two carry on as if you were at a tea party, there is work to be done. Nephew, you may take your leave so that my employee can continue his work, or he will be forced to find employment elsewhere.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that, I'm sure.
I certainly do. Merry Christmas. What reason do you have to be merry? What right do you have to be merry? You're poor enough.
Come then. What right do you have to be dismal? What reason do you have to be morose? You're rich enough.
Bah humbug!
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else am I to be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills with no money? A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer? A time for balancing your books and finding every item in them through the round dozen of months presented dead against you? If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be buried with a stake of holly through his heart and boiled in his own pudding, he should.
Uncle!
Nephew! Keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone, then. Much good it may do you, much good it has ever done you.
There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited. I dare say Christmas among the rest. But I'm sure I've always thought of Christmas time, when it has come around, apart from the veneration due to its sacred name and origin. If anything belonging to it can be apart from that, it's a good time. A kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of in the long calendar of the year, when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely, and to think of others below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creature bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me some good, and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
Bravo! Bravo!
Let me hear another sound from you and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation. You're quite a powerful speaker, sir. I wonder you don't go into Parliament.
Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
I'd rather die.
But why? Why?
Why did you get married?
'Cause I fell in love.
Because you fell in love. Good afternoon.
Nay, Uncle. But he never came to see me before that happened. Why give it a reason for not coming now?
Good afternoon.
I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends?
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, with all my heart, to find you so resolute. We have never had a quarrel to which I have been a party. But I've made the trial in homage to Christmas, and I will keep my Christmas humor to the last. A Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
and a happy new year.
Good afternoon. There goes another fellow my clerk with 15 shillings a week and wife and family talking about a Merry Christmas. I'll retire to Bedlam. What are you doing in here?
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner.
Yes, at this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessaries, and hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir.
Are there no prisons?
There are plenty of prisons.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are. Still, I wish I could say they were not.
The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor then?
Both very busy, sir.
Good. From what you had said at first, I was afraid something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. I am very glad to hear it.
Well, under the impression that they scarcely furnish Christian cheer of mind or body to the multitude, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others, where want is keenly felt and abundance is rejoiced. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to remain anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas time, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
But many can't go there, and many others would rather die.
If they would rather die, they had ought to do it and decrease the surplus population. Besides, excuse me, I don't know that.
But you might know it.
My business. There's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
The owner of one young face, gnawed and mumbled by the hungry cold as bones are gnawed by dogs, stooped down at Scrooge's keyhole to regale him with the Christmas carol.
What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary.
Get out! Now! Or I'll call the authorities. You'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose.
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient, and it's not fair. If I were to stop half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. And yet, you don't think me ill-used when I pay a full day's wages for no work.
It's only once a year, sir.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier next morning.
I promise I will be. Thank you, sir.
Scrooge took his pathetic dinner in his usual pathetic tavern, and having read all the newspapers, went home to bed. He lived in chambers which had once belonged to his deceased partner. They were a gloomy suite of rooms. It was old enough now and dreary enough, for nobody lived in it but Scrooge, the other rooms being all let out as offices. The fog and frost hung about the old black gateway of the house.
Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. So, then let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, without it undergoing any intermediate process of change, not a knocker, but Marley's face.
What's this? The face of my old partner Marley, who died so many years ago on this night, in the face of my door knocker. An illusion, surely. Surely my own imagination. Not a thought I'd given him until now. Just not the time to begin. Oh! It's humbug still! I won't believe it! How now? What do you want with me? Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then? You are familiar for a shade.
Life. I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down? Do it then.
You don't believe in me.
I don't.
What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your own senses?
I don't know.
Why then do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheats. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a crumb of cheese, a blot of mustard, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are. Do you see this toothpick?
I do.
You are not looking at it.
But I see it, notwithstanding.
Well, I have but to swallow this and be persecuted by a legion of goblins for the rest of my day will be all of my own imagination. It's humbug, I tell you, humbug! Mercy. Mercy, dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?
Otherworldly mind, do you believe in me or not?
I do. I must, but why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men. And if the spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share but might have shared, and return to happiness.
You are chained. Tell me why.
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it, link by link, and yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you? Or would you know the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as full and as heavy and as long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a terrible, wondrous chain!
Oh, Jacob Merlis, tell me more, speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give. It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and it is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor can I tell you what I would. A very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest, and I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never moved beyond the narrow limits of our counting house. Oh, mark me, in life my spirit never moved beyond our money-changing hole. And weary journeys lie before me.
Been very slow about it, Jacob.
Hello?
7 years dead and traveling all this time.
The whole time. No rest. No peace. Incessant torture of remorse.
You travel fast.
On the wings of the wind.
You might have got over a great quantity of land in 7 years.
Oh, captive, bound, and double-ironed, not to know that ages of labor by immortal creatures for this earth must pass into eternity before it is susceptible to all developed. Not to know that any Christian spirit walking kindly in its little sphere, no matter what it may be, will find its mortal life too short to fulfill its vast means of usefulness. Not to know that no space of regret can make amends for a lifetime of opportunities misused. Yet such was I! Such was I!
But you were a good man of business, Jacob.
Business? Mankind was my business. Common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. At this time of the rolling year, I suffer most. Why did I walk through crowds of my fellow beings with my eyes turned down? I never raised them to that blessed star that led the wise men to a poor abode. Were there no poor homes to which its light would have conducted me? Hear me! My time is nearly gone.
I will, but pray don't be hard upon me, Jacob.
How is it I appear before you in a shape you can see? I may not tell. I have sat invisible beside you many and many a day. That is no light part of my penance. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and a hope of escaping my fate. a chance and hope of my procuring Ebenezer.
You were always a good friend to me, thank ye.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Is that the chance and hope that you mentioned, Jacob?
It is.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Look to see me no more. And for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us.
Chains. 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 Chains.
The air was filled with phantoms, wandering in hither and thither in restless haste, and moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains like Marley's ghost. Some few were linked together, none were free.
Whether these creatures faded into mist or mist enshrouded them, he could not tell. But they and their spirit voices faded together.
Scrooge awoke to find his bedroom completely dark. He looked around and heard the chimes of a church in the distance. Scrooge listened with anticipation.
Why, it isn't possible that I slept through a whole night and so far into the next. And it isn't possible that this is 12 at noon and something happened to the sun.
Perplexed, he scrambled out of bed and made his way to the window. He wiped the window with his sleeve to see the cold, empty streets and sidewalks below.
Was it all a dream? If my memory serves me correctly, I shall have a visitor when the clock tolls 1. I will make sure to stay awake until this hour passes.
The bells rang. A quarter past. Half past. A quarter to it. And then at last.
The hour itself and nothing else.
The curtains were thrown back as a flash of light filled the room. Scrooge shielded his eyes as a figure manifested in front of him.
How now? Are you the spirits, ma'am, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
The light, it's blinding. Maybe if we just cover it up.
What? Would you so soon put out the light I give? Is it not enough that you are one of those whose worldly passions made this cap and forced me to wear it for long trains of years low upon my brow?
I'm so... Why have you come here?
For your welfare. Take heed, rise, and walk with me.
I am mortal and liable to fall.
Bear but a touch of my hand there, and you shall be no more liable than I.
They passed through the window and out of the house. They flew until they ended up on snow-covered ground in front of an old house.
Why, I was bred in this place. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling, and what is that upon your cheek?
It is just a pimple. May we continue along the way?
You recollect the way?
Remember it? I could walk it blindfolded.
Strange, then, to have forgotten it for so many years. Let us go on. These are but shadows of the things that have been. They have no consciousness of us. The school is not quite deserted. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still.
I know.
They walked on until they entered an empty brick mansion. A door opened, revealing a boy sitting by himself in a lonely, desolate room. Scrooge took a breath and sighed at the sight.
Why, that's me as a boy. It was Christmas time and I was left all by myself. Poor, poor, lonely little boy. Oh, but the books. I loved the books. Ali Baba and Robinson Crusoe. They were my only friends. Poor boy. I wish. But it's too late for that now.
Is something the matter?
Nothing. Nothing. There was just a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should have given him something, that's all.
Let us see another Christmas, shall we?
As they continued on their journey, the moon shone from above.
I have come to bring you home. To bring you home, home, home. Home for good and all. Home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be. That's home's like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one dear night when I was going to bed that I was not afraid to ask him if you might come home. And he said, yes, yes, you should. And he sent me in a coach to bring you. And you're to be a man and are to never come back here again. But first, we're to be together all Christmas and have the merriest time in all the world.
Always a delicate creature, whom my breath might have withered, but she had a large heart.
So she had. You're right, Spirit. I will not gainsay it, God forbid.
She died a woman, and had, as I think, children.
One child.
True. Your nephew.
Yes.
They left the school and continued into the city as shadowy passengers and carts passed by them. Christmas could be seen in the windows of every shop. They stopped once they came to a warehouse door.
Do you know this warehouse?
Was I apprenticed here?
They entered the warehouse, and they could see an old man in a flamboyant Welsh wig sitting behind such a high desk.
Why, it's old Fezziwig, to be sure. He was always a great friend to me. What a friend, dear, dear.
Scrooge's former self, now a young man, came in briskly.
You wouldn't believe how Scrooge went at it. He changed the warehouse into a great hall for a holiday party.
Yo-ho there, Ebenezer! Yo-ho, my boy! No more work tonight. Christmas Eve! Christmas, Ebenezer! Let's have the shutters up before a man can say Jack Robinson! Hilly-ho! Clear away, my lad, and let's have lots of room here. Hilly-ho! Cheer up, Ebenezer!
A small matter to make these silly folk so full of gratitude.
Small.
Why, is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 to be sure. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
It isn't that, Spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. To say that his power lies in words and looks and things so slight and insignificant it is impossible to add and count him up. What then? The happiness he gives is as great as if it had cost a fortune.
Is something the matter?
Nothing particular.
Something, I think.
It is nothing. I would just like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now. That's all.
My time grows short. Quick!
The ghost transported them to a later Christmas, where a slightly older, more hardened Scrooge stood beside a fair, weeping young woman.
It matters little. To you, very little. Another idol has displaced me. And if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to give.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing on which is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond its sordid reapproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one, until the master passion gain engrossed you, have I not?
What then? Even if I've grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you. Am I?
Our engagement is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until in good season we could improve our worldly fortune by our patient industry. You are changed. It was made when you were another man.
I was a boy.
Your own feeling tells you that you are not what you are. I am. That which brought happiness when we were one in heart is now fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and how keenly I have thought of this I will not say. It is enough that I have thought of it and can release you.
Have I ever sought release?
In words, no, never.
Well, in what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in another atmosphere of life, another hope at its great end, in everything that ever made my love of any worth or value in your sight. If this had never been between us, would you seek me out and try and win me now? No.
You think not.
I would gladly think otherwise if I could. Heaven knows, when I've learned a truth like this. How could you love a dowerless girl? I release you with a full heart, for the love of him you once were. You may, the memory of what is past half makes me hope you will have pain in this. A very, very brief time, and you will dismiss the recollection of it gladly, as an unprofitable dream from which you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
She left him and they parted.
Spirits, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me?
One shadow more.
No more, no more. I don't wish to see it. Show me no more.
But the relentless ghost forced him to observe what happened next. They're in another room and place. A room, not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. Near to the winter fire sat another beautiful young woman, surrounded by 2 delightful children.
Belle, I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon.
Who was it?
Guess.
How can I? I don't know.
Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window, and as it was not shut up and he had a candle inside, I could scarcely help seeing him. His partner lies upon the point of death, I hear, and there he sat alone, quite alone in the world, I do believe.
Spirits, remove me from this place.
I told you that these are but shadows of the things that have been, that they are what they are. Do not blame me.
Remove me, I cannot bear it. Leave me. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
He awoke in his bedroom, conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness. He shuffled to his bed in barely enough time before he sank into a heavy sleep.
Scrooge awoke from his deep sleep with a start. Sitting up, he struggled to regain his thoughts through his groggy mind. He knew already that the bell was soon tolled, announcing one, and he will once again be visited by a spirit. He began to shiver.
Why is it so cold in here? You shan't surprise me, spirits. I am prepared for you.
But he was not prepared for what the next spirit would bring.
Where are you? I see no apparition.
Time passed on. 5 minutes, 10, half an hour, yet there was still no spirit.
Scrooge continued to sit upright when there was a flash of light.
Scrooge! Ebenezer Scrooge! Come here, you weird little man.
I'm coming?
Scrooge followed the voice into a room with a face fit for royalty.
Why, this is my own room. But it is so different.
There were piles of food, turkey, poultry, pies, pears, cakes, apples, and almost any other delicious delight that could be thought of.
Come in, and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. Have you never seen the like of me before?
Never.
Have you never walked forth with the younger members of my family, my elder brothers born in these later years?
I don't think I have. I am afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, spirits?
What year is this?
Why, it is 1843.
Then I have 1843 brothers and sisters.
My word. Spirit, I went forth last hour on compulsion, and I learnt a lesson which is working now. If you have aught to teach me, then let me profit from it.
Touch my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast. Suddenly, all the food, along with the room, light, and the night, all disappeared in a moment.
They now stood in the streets on a Christmas morning, where it was cold and snowing with people bustling about. Friends and neighbors called out to one another. Shops were bright and glowing. The smell of pies wafted through the air as food all around was piled high. The scents of tea and coffee were a gift to anyone who caught a whiff.
As time passed, the townsfolk were called into the church. The sight of all these people seemed to spike the interest of the ghost. As the passerby came and went, the spirit sprinkled incense from his torch into their baskets of food, and as this was done, their happiness seemed to flourish.
Is there a peculiar flavor in which you sprinkle from your torch?
There is. It's my own.
Would it apply to any kind of dinner on this night?
To any kindly given, to a poor one the most.
Why to a poor one most?
Why, because they need it the most.
But shouldn't the poor get jobs and take care of themselves?
There are some upon this earth of yours who lay claim to know us, and who do their deeds of passion, pride, ill will, hatred, envy, bigotry, and selfishness in our names, who are as strange to us and all of our kith and kin as if they had never lived. Remember that, and charge their doings on themselves, not on us.
I will remember.
They continued on like they had before, invisible to anyone until the dwelling of one Bob Cratchit. The ghost tilted his torch to spread its glow upon the rooms. Mrs. Cratchit stood up. She was dressed up, however poorly, in a dressing ribbons.
She went to work, assembling the dinner table with her second daughter, who was dressed much alike her.
My dear, what has ever got your precious father then? And your poor brother, Tiny Tim? And Martha wasn't late last Christmas Day by half an hour.
Here's Martha, Mother.
Here's Martha, Mother. Hurrah! There's such a goose, Martha.
Bless my heart, my dear, how late you are.
We had a deal of work to finish up last night and had to clear away this morning, Mother.
Never mind that, my dear, so long as you are. Come, sit ye down by the fire. My dear, Lord bless ye.
No, Father's coming. Hide, Martha, hide.
So Martha hid herself, and in came her father with his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
Why, where's our Martha?
Not coming.
Not coming? Not coming up on Christmas Day?
Martha didn't like to see him disappointed, even if it were only in joke, so she came out prematurely from behind the closet door and ran into his arms.
And how did little Tiny Tim behave?
As good as gold. And better. Somehow, he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much and thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in church because he was a cripple, and that it might be pleasant to them to remember who upon Christmas Day made the lame beggars walk and the blind men see.
His active little crutch was heard upon the floor, and back came Tiny Tim before another word was spoken, escorted by his brother and sister to a stool beside the fire.
And so the Cratchits said grace, and began to happily eat their long-awaited meal. And the young ones banged happily on the table, yelling, "Hurrah!"
I don't believe there's ever been a goose quite like this. It's perfect in every way.
Indeed, 'tis perfect for us all.
Oh, a wonderful pudding. And to think you thought you put too much flour in it. 'Tis wonderful, my darling. A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us. Give us a song, Tiny Tim.
Away in a manger, no crib for a bed. The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the bright sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes. But little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. I love you, Lord Jesus. Look down from the sky and stay
Spirits. Spirits. Tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, 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 kind spirit, say he will be spared.
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my kind will find him there. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it, and decrease the surplus population.
Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the Spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief.
Man, if man you be in heart, not adamant, forbear that wicked cant until you have discovered what the surplus is, and where it comes from. Will you decide what men shall live, what men shall die? It may be that, in the sight of heaven, you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child. Oh God, to hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on the too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust.
Scrooge bent before the ghost rebuke, and, trembling, cast his eyes upon the ground. But he raised them speedily on hearing his own name.
Mr. Scrooge! I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind, and I'd hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
Dear, the children! Christmas Day! It should be Christmas Day!
I don't know anybody who would take a toast to such a hard, stingy, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. Nobody knows it better than you, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you do, poor fellow.
Dear, Christmas Day!
I'll cheers to him, his long life, and the days. Long life to him, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm sure he's very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
The children drank the toast after her. Tiny Tim drank it last of all, but he didn't care 2 pence for it. Scrooge was the older of the family, and the mention of his name cast a dark shadow on the party, which was not dispelled for 5 minutes.
After had passed, they were 10 times merrier than before.
Father, work is hard. I cannot wait to be off tomorrow and get out of bed late.
By this time it was getting dark and snowing pretty heavily, and as Scrooge and the Spirit went along the streets, the brightness of the roaring fires in kitchens, parlors, and all sorts of rooms was wonderful. Here, the flickering of the blaze showed preparations for a cozy dinner.
As Scrooge and the Spirit traversed the streets of London, Scrooge stared agape at all the people laughing, dancing, and singing.
What a show! There's likely not even enough folks at home to welcome them inside.
It is because they know me.
They know you?
They spread the joy in their hearts, therefore they know me.
What place is this?
A place where miners live, who labor in the bowels of the earth. They too know me, see?
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la.
Come on, guys, let's get back to work.
Oh man, look down here.
2 children, a boy and a girl, approached the pair. Whereas graceful youth had plus boisterous features, these children were meager, filthy, pallid, and sickly. Scrooge started back, appalled.
Spirits! Are they yours?
They are man's. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both, deny them. Fare thee well! Ho, ho, ho!
The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked for the Spirit, but it was gone. As the last chime ceased, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him.
You are the ghost of Christmas yet to come. You are going to show me shadows of the things that have not yet been, but will be in the time before us. Is that so, Spirit?
Scrooge feared the silent shape so much that his legs trembled beneath him, and he found that he could barely stand when he prepared to follow it.
Spirit, I fear you more than any spectre I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to be another man of what I was, I will bear you company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?
It gave him no reply. It just gestured his hand before them.
Lead on, spirits. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me, I know. Lead on.
The phantom moved away as it had come towards him. Scrooge followed in the shadow. The spirit had stopped beside a group of businessmen. Scrooge advanced towards them to listen to their conversation.
No, I don't know much about it either way. I know that he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he would never die.
God knows.
What has he done with his money?
I haven't heard. He'll have to go with his company, perhaps. That's up to me. That's all I know. It's likely to be a very short funeral. I don't know if anybody would go to it. Suppose to make a party and volunteer?
I don't mind going if a lunch is provided, but I must be fed if I attend.
I'm the most disinterested among all of you, but I'll offer to go if anyone else will. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think we ever were close friends. We would stop and speak whenever we meet, but that's all.
The conversation ended there, and it left Scrooge confused as to why the spirit would have him listen to such an important conversation.
How are you?
How are you?
Well, little Scrooge has got his own at last, eh?
So I'm told. Cold, isn't it?
Seasonable for Christmas time. You are not a skater, I suppose.
No. Another thing to think about. Good morning.
He could not think of any connection between them and himself. The spirit and Scrooge then left the scene and entered into an area of town he had never wandered before. When they arrived, he began to notice the area for its bad reputation, the condition of the houses, and the behavior and the appearance of the occupants. They approached the man in the shop. As they entered, so did 3 other women.
Let the bag woman alone be the first. Let the laundress alone be the second. And let me alone be the third. Look here, old Joe, here's a chance, if we all 3 haven't met here without meaning it.
You couldn't have met in a better place. Come into the parlor.
What odds, then? What odds, Mrs. Dilber? Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did.
That is true, indeed. No man more so.
Why, then, look as if you are afraid of the women. Who's wiser? We're not going to poke holes in each other's coats, I suppose?
No, indeed. We should hope not.
No, indeed. We should hope not.
Very well, then. That is enough. Who would miss a few things like these? Not a dead man, I suppose.
No, indeed.
If they were really important to him, he would have had someone look after them after death had struck him.
It is the truest word that was ever spoken. It is a judgment on him.
I wish it was a little heavier of a judgment. Open the bundle, old Joe. I am not afraid to be the first, or to let anyone see it. We knew we were helping ourselves, and I don't believe it to be a sin. Open the sack, old Joe.
This is all you get. Who's next? I always give way too much to you ladies, and it never trunks out well for me. That is your account, and do not ask for a penny more.
Ha, old Joe. I have my own loot to bargain with.
What do you call this? Bed curtains?
Ah, bed curtains.
Did you take these down as he was lying there?
Why, yes, I did.
You certainly made your fortune.
I was not going to sit there and hold his hand. I would have never gotten anything for myself had I done that. Don't drop any oil on his blankets now, old Joe.
His blankets?
Whose else would they be?
I hope he did not die of anything catchable.
Don't you be afraid of that, old Joe. I would not have rummaged through his things if he had. Each piece is the finest of the finest. You won't find a hole or missing piece of thread in anything he owned. They would have wasted these things if it weren't for me.
What do you mean, wasted it?
They would have had him buried with it, but I took it off again.
Scrooge listened to this conversation in horror and disgust.
He pushed everyone away, only to profit us in his death.
Spirit, I see this unhappy man is like me.
The people had disappeared, and Scrooge was left staring at a bed with a figure lying covered up. The spirit then pointed to the figure, and the blanket towards the head of the figure lifted. Thoughts of horror approached Scrooge as he looked at the figure beneath the covers.
Spirit, this is a horrible, fearful place. I am leaving but as a changed man, for I see the lesson to be learned here.
The spirit continued pointing at the figure lying in the bed.
I understand what you have shown me, Spirit. Now let us leave this place. I would change if I had the strength to, but I lack the ability, Spirit. If anyone in this town would be distraught by the death of me, then show me, Spirit, I beg of you.
Spirit took Scrooge to a place where a mother and her children were.
She was expecting someone, and with anxious eagerness, she walked up and down the room.
Is it good or bad?
Bad.
Are we quite ruined?
No, there's hope yet, Caroline.
If he relents, it is. If he relents, there is. Nothing is past hope. If such a miracle has happened.
He is past relenting. He is dead. What the hatching woman who I told you of last night said to me when I tried to obtain a week's delay, and I thought it was a mere excuse to avoid me, turns out to have been quite true. He's not only ill, but dying.
To whom will our debt be transferred?
But before that time, we shall be ready with the money. And even though we're not, we're in bad fortune indeed to find so merciless a creditor and a successor. We'll sleep tonight with light hearts, Caroline.
Let me see some tenderness connected with this death.
They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and they found the mother and the children seated around the fire. It was quiet.
And he took a child and set him in the midst of them.
Where have I heard those words before?
The color hurts my eyes.
Spirit, where is Tiny Tim?
They're better now. They're weak by candlelight, and I wouldn't dare show weak eyes to your father before he comes home for the world. It must be about his time.
Pastor Ethel,
But I think he's walked a little slower than he used to these last few evenings, Mother.
I have known him walk very fast, with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder indeed.
And so have I, often.
Oh, Mother.
But Tiny Tim was so light, and your father loved him so, that it was no trouble, no trouble.
She hurried out to meet poor Bob Cratchit. Bob was cheerful with her and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table.
Oh, how lovely. They should be done long before Sunday.
Sunday? You went today then, Robert?
Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It's a rather lovely spot to rest. Green, despite its gloom. But you'll see it often anyway. I promised him that I would walk there on a Sunday. Oh, my little child. My little child.
Spectre, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me, who was that man whom we saw lying dead?
The spirit turned to leave. Scrooge joined it once again, and accompanied it until they reached an iron gate. He paused to look around before entering.
And as he looked, he saw an old, desolate churchyard, a cemetery, a worthy place.
Spirit, what dreadful thing are you trying to tell me? Before I draw nearer to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be, or are they shadows of the things that may be only? Surely men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, to which, if preserved, they must lead. But if the courses be departed from, the ends will change. Say it is thus with what you show me. Am I that man who lay there dead? No, spirit, no, spirit! Hear me, I will not be the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been for this intercourse. Why show me this if I am past all hope?
Sect Buzz.
Good spirit, your nature intercedes for me and pities me. Assure me that I yet may change these shadows that you have shown me by an altered life.
The kind hands of the horrifying phantom trembled.
I shall honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone.
Holding up his hands in the last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost.
Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own, the room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, to make amends in.
I shall live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven in Christmas time be praised for this. My bed curtains, They are not torn down. They are not torn down, rings and all. They are here. I am here. The shadows of the things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will. I don't know what to do. I am as light as a feather. I am as merry as a schoolboy. I am as happy as an angel. I am as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to all the world. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm quite a baby. Never mind. I'd rather be a baby. Hello, Merry Christmas!
He was checked in his transports by the churches ringing out the glorious bells he had ever heard.
Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist. Clear, bright, jovial, stirring, glowing sunlight. Heavenly sky, sweet fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious. He called to a young boy passing by.
What's today?
Excuse me, but what?
What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day.
It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. They can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow.
Hello.
Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner?
I should hope I did.
An intelligence boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know if they still have the prize turkey hanging in the window there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one.
You mean the one as big as me?
What a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck.
Why, it's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
Walker.
No, I am in earnest. Go and buy it and tell him to bring it here that I may give them directions where to take it. Come back with the man and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown.
The boy was off like a shot.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. They shan't know who sends it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. They will be surprised.
The hand in which he wrote the address was not a steady one, but write it he did somehow, and went downstairs to open the street door, ready for the coming of the poulterer's man. As he stood there, waiting his arrival, the knocker caught his eye.
I shall love it as long as I live. I scarcely ever looked at it before. What an honest expression it has. It's a wonderful knocker. Oh, here's the turkey. Hello, Merry Christmas.
It was a turkey. He never could have stood upon his legs, that bird. He was enormous.
Why, it's impossible to carry that to Camden Town. You must have a cab.
The chuckle with which he said this, and the chuckle with which he paid for the turkey, and the chuckle with which he paid for the cab, and the chuckle with which he recompensed the boy, were only to be exceeded by the chuckle with which he sat down, breathless in his chair again, and chuckled till he cried.
He dressed himself all in his best, and at last got out into the streets. The people were by this time pouring forth, as he had seen them do with the ghost of Christmas present. And walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded every one with a delighted smile.
Good morning, sir. A Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, good sirs. Merry Christmas. Here's a little something for the helping of the poor, and there is more to come. Merry Christmas to you, sirs. I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you. Merry Christmas to all.
Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, that is my name, and I fear it may not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon. And will you have the goodness of a healthy bit of cash each month for the helping of the poor?
Lord bless me, my dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please, a great many back payments will be included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that favor?
My dear sir, I don't know what to say to such generosity.
Nothing, don't say anything at all. Just come and visit me. Will you come and visit me? Thank you. I thank you 50 times. I'm much obliged to you. Merry Christmas.
He went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro and patted the children on the head and questioned beggars and looked down into the kitchens of houses and up to the windows and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock. But he made a dash and did it.
Is your master at home, my dear?
Yes, sir.
Where is he, my love?
He's in the dining room, sir, along with the mistress. I'll show you upstairs if you please.
Thank you. He knows me. I'll go in here, my dear.
He turned it gently and sidled his face in round the door. They were looking at the table, which was spread out in a great array.
Fred.
Goodness gracious, Fred, as I live and breathe, look who it is.
But bless my soul, who's that?
It is I, your long-lost Uncle Ebenezer. I wish to spend Christmas with you if the offer still stands.
Uncle Ebenezer, of course. You're always invited. Please, join us for dinner.
Fred, your bride is quite lovely. What a wise choice you made to marry such a wonderful girl.
Uncle Ebenezer, my family, I cannot tell you how happy that you've made us today. Please, dine with us.
But he was early at the office next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late. That was the thing he had set his heart upon. And he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. He was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door wide open, that he might see him come into the tank.
His hat was off before he opened the door. His coat, too. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen, as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock.
Hello. What do you mean by coming in here at this time of day?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm very much behind my time.
You are? Yes. I think you are. Step this way, if you please.
Oh, it's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making myself rather merry yesterday, sir.
No, I'll tell you what, my friend. I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. And therefore I'm about to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob Cratchit, than I have given you for many a year. I'm going to raise your salary and endeavor to assist your struggling family, and we'll discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob. Buy another coal scuttle and start up the fires before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit.
Scrooge is better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. One afternoon, when visiting with Tiny Tim, he told him the story of the 3 spirits and his good friend Jacob Marley.
You know, to me on that night I thought that my life was over. But thankfully I was given a second chance. Thank goodness I was given a second chance.
Yes, Uncle Ebenezer. I am so happy that you were given a second chance. And I'm so glad that I got to meet you and have you be my uncle. God bless you, Uncle Ebenezer, and God bless us, everyone.